everyone, Linda Israel here, and I'm going to share with you how to make a standard size traveler's notebook with the Marie Antoinette theme. The reason why I'm doing it is because I needed to make two journals, one to give away for my YouTube winner, and the other is for a swap that I'm in. And I thought, well, I would use the foundation of what is required for the swap, and then that way I kind of met two with one, and I'm making two journals that are pretty similar, if you will. So the requirement is that the journal, when it's closed, is 8.25 inches tall by 4.25 inches wide. So basically you can use an 8.5 wide sheet of paper and you fold it and just trim it down to 8.25. It must have 10 pages, meaning 10 sheets of paper, which equals 40 pages. Has 2 pockets, 4 tuck spots, 4 journaling spots or cards included, 2 nice pieces of junk, magazine pages, book pages, mop-up pages, maps, comic book pages, children's books, etc. 1 envelope and 2 tags. So I've got some images that I want to use, and I'll cut these out in just a moment. And then I have my pages. So here's what I've done. I've got some scrapbook papers. This particular paper was 12 by 12. I trimmed it down to be 8.25, and then I scored it at 4.5 and then folded that in half, so that becomes 4.25. And I've got a couple of those. This is one of my mop-up pages that I use in my Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist box. So I have folded up the edge to make a pocket, and then I've got to place something here to cover up part of the letterhead. This was a letterhead that my husband had that became obsolete, and so they were going to throw it away, and so I kept it. This is a piece of mulberry paper that's just been in my stash for a while. This is copy paper basically that's been printed on. I have a little desk calendar page that is supposed to be left like this, but I folded it, and so I think it becomes a great addition to a journal. This is notebook paper. This is a coloring book page, and again I just folded it up so that it would be 8.25 inches tall. This page is out of an old dictionary. And then I've got some ephemera here. So I'm going to work on these pages. What I'm going to do is a little bit of stamping. I'm going to use some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist and more. So I will work through this, and you can watch along. I'll stop every once in a while to chat with you to tell you what I'm doing. So some of these pages I don't want to stamp upon, so I'm just going to set those aside for a moment. But I know that these pages I do want to stamp something on the inside or color with Glimmer Mist. So I'm kind of getting them set out. So I've got my Misty loaded with a Autumn Leaves scroll stamp. And I've used it before, so I knew where the placement needs to be. So I've got it centered, and I'm going to use some Distressed Ink, Picked Raspberry by Tim Holtz. And I'm just going to ink up this little swirl and stamp that on all 4 sides of this paper. I like using my Misty because it gets perfect placement each time, so I know exactly where it's going to land. And if I didn't get a very good impression, then I can always stamp it again. Now I'll take this particular page, and I do want to add more color. I do that by using my Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist. So I've got my spray box, and there's that letterhead I was telling you about. I use that to help soak up any extra spray. So I've got a couple of colors of Tattered Angels that I'm going to use. I've got Black Cherry, and then this is called Vintage Pink. It's kind of a a dirty pink, if you will, but I just like the way it looks. It has lots of shimmer in it. And I'm just spraying it randomly on the page just to add some color. And then I'll set this aside to dry, and I'll move on to my next page, doing the same basic concept, stamping, spraying with glimmer mist, and then setting aside to dry. I'm going to start decorating the pages before I put the book together. I like to do this way in case there's something that I need to do additionally, like stamping or spraying, and I don't get it on the other pages. Now what I've done is I've mounted the Marie Antoinette image onto a piece of cardstock, and I'm going to use some washi tape to make this a flip out onto the page, so there's a little bit more journaling space. You can write behind it, you can write on the back of the card, and it becomes kind of a hidden tuck spot if you want to slip something behind that whenever it's finished. So I've got just some different colors of washi tape, and here's what I found works the best for this technique. That is to take your washi tape and start it at the edge and go across onto your piece that you want to add. And I do it outside of my journal for a moment so that I can get it cut straight on each end, because you don't want any excess or it won't be able to flip to be on your page. So I'm just going to kind of center this where I want it, use the washi tape to press this down, and then flip it over, make sure it stays pretty straight and even. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side of adding washi tape. Go to the end, and I'll use my scissors to cut off the excess. So anytime you see one of these flip outs in the journal, that is how I created it, by adding it there, and then that way you can write here or add a photo, or like I said before, it kind of becomes a place to tuck something behind. I'm going to use cardstock for my cover, and this is a 12 by 12 printed cardstock. So I'm going to trim this down to be 8 1/4 inches tall. And then I'm going to score this at the 8.5 mark, that I can leave it to have a flap. So when we're folding this up, this piece will be the flap. So I'm going to put this on my paper cutter to help guide me where I need to score. So this portion can now be folded over. And then I'll go ahead and just fold this piece. Sometimes I'll score it, sometimes I'll just fold it. Kind of depends on my mood. So here's the beginnings of the cover. I'm going to go ahead and cut up these pieces to be small journal cards. I'll just cut them every 3 inches, and that'll make a nice little card. And then I'll use my crocodile and corner chomper and around those corners. I know that I want to spray a doily to be a pink color, so I'm going to go ahead and place that into my glimmer mist box, and I've got black cherry. That way this can be drying as I get the rest of my elements together. I've got a page out of a dictionary, and I'm just going to rip this and make little pieces to collage on the front of this journal. Got some some distressed ink by Tim Holtz. So I'm just going to give some color to the edges of this paper. I like to use the ink pad directly onto the paper sometimes. It really gives it a much darker edge. You could also use a couple of different colors of the distressed ink, one of them being like walnut stain. But I find if I just add the ink pad directly to it, it gives it a little darker edge. Do you know that when you peel off this little round pad that you can stick it onto the bottom of the ink pad? That way you know where this is. And then I store mine in the metal tins, and then that way I have my ink pad and inks all together. I'm going to layer these on here. I've got some glue stick. I'm trying this a little bit to see how it works. I plan to sew on top of my collaged element, so I'm just adding a little bit of glue stick to help this to stick down. I have a little scrap of fabric here, and I thought that would look really nice going along one edge. So I'm just going to trim this to be a little bit shorter. I'm going to use the glue stick to hold it in place until I sew it down. Got my doily here. It seems to be dry now. I'm going to use some glue stick on the back of it to help hold it in place. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to one side of the card so that I can lay a piece of lace right behind it. And then I don't have to fuss with trying to get the perfect placement on my cover. I'm going to use Aleene's tacky glue though around this to help hold it in place because of the lace. It may move a little bit if I don't add some more glue. Got a little piece of ribbon here that I think I want to use on the edge. I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and add some zigzag stitches to it, and I'll be back. I have zigzag stitched down this side and around the center image, and it looks like the glue stick has held down all the papers really nicely, so they're not going anywhere. I want to also add some little bling. I've got some little flat back pearls, and I thought those would look pretty if I put some on the front of this cover. I want some shimmer on the front of this, so I have Dazzling Diamonds Glimmerlit Mist by Tattered Angels. Just going to spray a little bit on the front of this cover. I think I want some splatters on here, so I'm going to open up the black cherry and then just tap the wand over the cover. I'm going to open up the inside here, and I want to kind of cover up some of the stitching. So I've got some washi tape, and I'm just going to go down the edge of this, adding a little bit of washi tape. I have one of these little notepads. They're a little pretty frilly notepad, and I want to add one of these pieces of paper over the area that was sewn, just so that you have more places to write. So I'm going to use a little bit of the glue stick and glue this down. Just to add another little element, I'm going to add some washi tape. I'm going to add just a little bit of some glimmer mist. On the cover and the back, I want to add a little pocket, but I'm going to use my stamp and stamp first, and then I want to place the pocket just above, but not covering up my stamp. This just lets the user know that I was the one that created this. I think I'm ready to bind the journal, so I'm going to use a couple of these giant paper clips and bind this together. I have a little template that I use, that I basically measure the inside of the journal where I want to put the holes and punch 3 holes. I can do it by folding this in half and punching a hole, and then folding down 1 inch to 1.5 inches on the ends. Now I'm going to use my bookbinding cradle to punch the holes in this, but you can use your craft mat, fun foam, an old phone book, whatever it is that is convenient to you. I happen to have a bookbinding cradle. A bookbinding cradle has a big V in it, if you will. It reminds me of an old manger or a feeding trough. So it has the V that comes down in here, and there's an opening at the bottom so that your awl can poke right through. So I'm just going to punch 3 holes. As simple as that, and then we'll bind this together with some wax linen thread. So I've got a bookbinder's needle. It's a heavy needle. It's really strong and won't bend. And I'm going to open up this journal and you do about 3 links. 1, 2, 3. I like to do it that way just so I have a little bit to work with. I'm not fighting it when I am sewing my journal. I start from the inside on the center one. This is a pamphlet stitch. So I'm going to sew from the middle and come to the outside and go to the top hole. I can see it. Sometimes it's hard to see. There it is. And then I'll come to the center. I pull the string towards me, and that reveals the hole a little bit better. I'll go back down through the center to the outside of the journal again. Go to the other hole at the opposite end that I haven't done. Come back to the inside. I'll slip under the string at the top. Pull this down taut. So you want to make sure there's not any slack here or on the outside. And then I'm going to tie 2 square knots. 1 and 2. Then I trim off a little bit of the excess there. I like to leave a little tail, and then I have some little punched hearts that I'm going to glue on these tails. So I'll just take a little dollop of glue, not a whole lot, otherwise it'll smear and go everywhere. And then take another heart or other punch shape that's the same size and that you can sandwich and they become one. And I'm sandwiching that piece of string in between. And I'll do the next one. Now I'm going to go through and add some journaling cards. This was some cardstock that was left over from a cover of another traveler's notebook, and I just trimmed it and then added a punch to the top. This was a piece left over from the cover that I thought I could just plop in there. Here's one of the Marie Antoinette images that was left over. Here is an envelope that I decorated with some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist and a Tim Holtz stencil. I love how this turned out. And then inside, I have a scrap of paper that's been folded to make a little note card. Set that in here. Here's a corner pocket that I've made. And then here is a tag with tuck spots. So basically it is a 6" by 3¼ inch because that was what was left over. So I'll show you really briefly. So this was a piece that was left over, and I cut that down to be 6 inches, and then it is folded up and sewed onto a piece of cardstock. And then I sewed across the top with a piece of fabric. I used my glue stick to hold it in place so it wouldn't move while I sewed. And then I've got another scrap of paper here that went here. And some of the reason I used these papers like that was because they were printed on the back side, and I couldn't just trim them and they would be a little card like this without that text, or they have the information of the paper along one side. This was a way to use that up, and then it'll fit right here in this tuck spot. There's another one of these tuck spots. I'll add another card to it. I've got some ribbon here. I'm going to tie this around. I'll tie it in a bow just so I know how big of a piece I want. And I'll take the string that's on the binding and slip this ribbon underneath. That way, if someone wants to put this in a traveler's notebook cover, they can remove this ribbon, and then when they remove it from the cover to store, they can tie it shut. So let's do a quick flip through. This is an image from Calico Collage, and it is one of the artist trading card size. I'll have a link below in the description box. I've used some old dictionary paper and fabric and lace and doily and washi tape here on the cover, as well as Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist. Then on the inside, I used one of those pages out of one of those rip-off notepads. I thought would be kind of pretty to add a little bit of journaling space, and it covers up the sewing that was done on the cover. Here I've added a Marie Antoinette on top of cardstock with washi tape, so it makes a nice little flip area. This is this is scrapbook paper that I have cut to fit inside the journal. I've stamped across the top and added some glimmer mist, coloring book page, journal card. So again, the idea was had to have 10 pages. This has that. 2 pockets, 4 tuck spots, 4 journaling spots or cards, 2 nice pieces of junk, an envelope, and 2 tags. And I think there's 1 tag. We're getting there. Here is another one of those flip out. This is my mop-up page that I have sewn. Oh yeah, I forgot to add something up here. So let's do some washi tape. That covers up that, gives it something interesting to look at. This was left over from the cover, so we're adding some journaling cards there. Another flip over of Marie Antoinette. Writing pages. A little desk calendar page. The envelope that has a piece of note paper inside. And this tuck spot has 1, 2, 3, and 4 spots that you can add things. Another one of the cards from the Calico Collage. The center, this flips out. Lots of room to write. Journal card with the bits added to it. Notebook paper. Another flip out. Another journaling card. Another tag. Another tuck spot that has a spot here in the front and then one in the back. And then this is just a card or piece of paper that I have folded to make into a card. Come on, flip over. Another little note. And then the back cover has two little spots. So there is the journal that I have made for the swap. I've got a second journal that I made, and this will go to the winner of my YouTube video where I had a request that everybody just leave a comment below on my video to celebrate having 2,500 followers. This will go out to Jennifer Russell. I hope she enjoys this journal. That's going to go out to her. Thanks so much for watching today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share my videos. That way other people will see it. Every action that you do causes people to see my videos, and that is very helpful to me and greatly appreciated. I really do appreciate that. You know, whenever you click on things, it is analyzed by Google, and I do get a little bit of money when you click on the ads as well. So if there's an ad that you see, definitely click on it. Check out that description box below for links to the calico collage images that I used today. If you have any questions, comment below and I'll be glad to help you. And of course, if you haven't already checked out the Friendly Junk Journal People Facebook group, please do. If you love junk journals, all things junk journal related, journaling, come in, have a great time. There's a bunch of friendly people there. We're already over 2,200 members. I'm just blown away of how many people have joined the group and are loving the group. Tell your friends because it's a great group, and we don't judge you. We're there to help you, and we're there to have fun. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a fabulous day. Bye.